They weren't upset that his name was out there. They were upset that it's another Mueller. That I get into so much in the book. It's the Mueller investigation. When he's an innocent public servant, he's beyond reproach. He's just a nice guy. When he's a CIA guy with ties to Biden, when he's in the photo crying, you see that this is not an objective, unbiased person. This is the swamp at its finest.
The leaker.
Yes.
Now, right now, I know that we're doing this on YouTube. This is a live stream. If we name the leaker, even though the name is out there,
you're out.
They are most likely going to shut this stream. They might shut this stream anyway, just because we're now talking about it. But the leaker, it's been named in a zillion things, on a zillion outlets. It's already been on television. Facebook has said they're taking down content with the leaker's name. YouTube's been taking down live streams. They did a big one last night that they took down. So I'm just going to read you the statement on this, and then we'll talk about it the best way we kind of can here, right? So a YouTube spokesperson said videos mentioning the potential whistleblower's name would also be removed. The spokesperson said that the company would use a combination of machine learning and human review to scrub the content. I'm pretty sure we're getting both of those right now. The removals, the spokesperson added, would affect the titles and descriptions of videos as well as the video's actual content. So look, I don't want this video to be taken down, but they're obviously watching it right now. The name is out there. There's a picture of this person on the White House lawn the day your dad showed up at the White House after the election.
It's interesting. I've gotten to be a part of the outrage cycle. It's a very fast cycle.
Yeah.
What was outrage? I guess we've been on here for about 10 minutes. I'm sure that the cycle of outrage has changed and has adapted to something else since we've been on. But I was part of the outrage cycle, I guess, last week because I apparently outed the whistleblower.
Even though it was all over the internet.
I retweeted an article that literally had his name in the title of the article.
Yeah.
It was on the Drudge Report. The View was like, the Drudge, who knows about the Drudge Report? I go, I don't know, it's like the largest news aggregator anywhere in the world, probably, right? I mean, it was on the Drudge Report 4 days prior to that. It was in Real Clear Politics. So I put it out there. Donald Trump Jr. out. I'm like, out? I still don't know his last name because I was just retweeting the article. I could care less. But I realized pretty quickly, it wasn't so much, Dave, that they were outraged that I had outed him. It's that now that if the name is known, people can actually do some research, right? It's not
that's what I wanted to get to, yeah.
He's a humble public servant who's just trying to do what's right for the guy. No, he's a CIA guy who was Biden's guest at a state dinner, who was good friends with Brennan, apparently, who was in the photograph, as you mentioned, the day my father is president-elect and going to the White House, crying like a little child, in that group picture where everyone's so morose and they're all, wearing black and, they're in mourning because it's the end of their world as we know it with Susan Rice or whoever else was in the picture. They're like, yeah, that guy, he's going to be super objective. He's just a humble, this didn't start. His lawyer doing tweets in January of 2017, right after the inauguration, the coup has started, impeachment is next, right along with the stuff that looks awfully like really weird child stuff.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with these people. That's the point. They weren't upset that his name was out there. They're upset that it's another Mueller. That I get into so much in the book. It's the Mueller investigation. When he's an innocent public servant, he's beyond reproach. He's just a nice guy. When he's a CIA guy with ties to Biden, when he's in the photo crying, you see that this is not an objective, unbiased person. This is the swamp at its finest. This is a deep state guy that wants to help out his people, and they will do whatever they can to attack Trump because Trump is going in and breaking up their cabal, their system that they've built up for so long, that they know and love, that has made all their friends really rich. And that's a problem for them.
So let me ask you a question. As a guy that punches back, do you think I'm basically sort of half-stepping this here by not saying his name? I mean, I'm tempted to say his name, because I'm not, I
don't know that it matters because anyone can go on right now and just type it in and figure it out for themselves. So I would rather, frankly, keep the platform. But again, the whole point of
this. You don't want me to ruin my entire career this second just to,
let's give them a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's so much a part of the book, which is, that social media censorship is like they have decided, like the mainstream media, to be the marketing arm of the Democrat Party, of those leftist policies.
How do you think they coordinate it? So something like this, where it's everything that you just said is correct. The picture is there, obviously all the connections, and no one wants anything bad to happen to this guy, but the reason
they pretend, hey, listen, I wish they would have shown the same, you're endangering his life. I'm endangering the life of a CIA. I wish I would have seen 1%, just 1%, I don't need it all, of the same amount of outrage when, like, my wife opened up an exploding white powder envelope of people that was a Warren volunteer. None of that stuff comes out. Like, that's at my house. My kids, like, that's doesn't deserve outrage. But this guy that's working in the deep state, he's a CIA guy, like, he needs our protections. Like, give me a break. Like, come on. I'm not advocating for violence of anyone, but at least balance this thing out in terms of that. And so it's sort of, that outrage cycle just shows exactly what we're up against.
Do you think your dad always saw that thing, like that sort of protection racket between the Democrats and the media?
Yeah.
It seems like he always kind of, because as a media
listen,
guy,
no one knew how to play the media better than him. When he was in his career, and I talk about in the book, when we went down to launch the campaign, and it was, June 16th, 2015. I mean, the last thing he said to us before he walked over to go to the elevator and we went down to go watch was, just look this. Now we find out who our real friends are. And so he knows. He understands the real world. He understands how it works. He understands how full of crap most people really are. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's looking for an angle, and honestly, politics is no different. If anything, it's probably worse. In that effect, meaning you're great and you're useful until you're not, and the thing that is missing so much is loyalty, and you see it, and so he's always known, and we've always known that the media has been left leaning. It's just now that they've given up the pretense of even objectivity. I mean, you see that the Washington Post, the day after the inauguration, 19 minutes after the inauguration, 19 minutes.
Yeah.
Wrote the first article, "The Case for Impeachment." I mean, 19 minutes.
19 minutes.
That's about the amount of time that Obama took to get nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, right? That was 11 days, I believe. But that's the difference, right? So when people ask, what about the impeachment that started last week? I go, it didn't start last week. It started on November 9th, 2016. Okay, the day they knew he had won. That's when this thing started. And again, if you weren't a believer in the deep state prior to his, election, I get it. If you aren't now, you're a freaking idiot. Like,
can you describe so people say deep state, and then so Twitter's going to explode in conspiracy theories. Yeah. You basically mean sort of the layer that always exists, because that's kind of what has kept the machine going, regardless of administration.
Essentially manipulating. The people's choice. I mean, Donald Trump was elected by the people of the country. This is the unelected, self-appointed, leaders of this country. If they disagree with the president who was elected to do, the things that he campaigned on, well, we're just going to do that because we know better. And it's that class, it's that elite, and honestly, that's always existed. But I think, now that class has not only just existed, but they've become nefarious. They are doing whatever they can to not only just, do their little thing, but subvert the actual will of the people. And that's where it starts getting scary.
Do you think your dad was the only guy that could break this? Because there's a lot of metaphors for this. So there's a lot of 100%. Analogies. Some people say he was the icebreaker that was going to break it. So I would say, always saying that it was just the chessboard. He was the guy that was just like, you're all playing this fake game. We're going to toss it up, see what happens.
It's probably a combination of the both. I mean, I think the reality is, if you look at sort of some of the major examples of his presidency, I mean, take Kavanaugh. All right. How long do you think, let's say, a Jeb Bush character, under fire, unfounded, ridiculous allegations about gang rape magically appear, how long do you think Jeb would have lasted when the media took the sound bites that they wanted and were like, this definitely happened, 100%, we're never going to question it? Second, maybe two.
Yeah.
That's where I'd set the over-under before he folded. It would have ruined this guy's life.
It wouldn't have made those 19 minutes.
It wouldn't have made it 19 minutes. And so, Donald Trump just isn't going to, buy into the nonsense. He isn't just going to cave to that kind of pressure. And that's exactly what we need today, because we need to really reset, this whole thing. And so he is the perfect vessel for this. And so that's why when people are like, well, it's pretty aggressive, I'm like, you've been under attack for 3 years. I mean, I see a lot of moderate, Democrats, honestly, I'm a Democrat, but I wish they just let him do his job. I mean, he's accomplished things that prior president, Obama, had he gotten the job numbers where they are, had he done the things for the African American community, like prison reform, opportunity zones, they would have knighted him, emperor for life.
He's doing this racist thing wrong. Huh?
I mean, he's like the worst racist ever because he's failing miserably at it. I mean, if you're going to fail at something, it's great to fail at being racist, right?
Yeah.
But it's such nonsense, and I see that because I see it from the characters. I mean, Whoopi Goldberg, we used that example. She can't say his name. Well, it didn't stop her from showing up at one of the finales of The Apprentice and hanging out with us at an after party 5-6 years ago, whenever that was. She was there. She didn't have a problem with us then. That was another thing I could have brought up. The whole. I mean, there's just so many examples of this. It didn't stop Al Sharpton from saying all these complimentary things. Reverend Jesse Jackson for saying, "Hey, he gave us space on a Wall Street building when we weren't, when we weren't anything." I go, I have pictures with half of the resistance, like at dinner.
Right. Like, so that's what your dad meant by that. We're going to find out who our friends are, because he basically had connections with everybody in that world.
He knew what he had done so much, and that's the reality. I mean, when Al Sharpton needed a place to stay in New York, this is one of the stories in the book. Like, he literally called me to set him up with a broker to help get him a place. There wasn't this hatred, so he'll joke, "Oh, well, we're frenemies," and it's all an act.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop yelling, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.